call this number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Tonight is Monday, January 28th, 2008.
Welcome one, welcome all.
Wow, we're here.
We are here.
Yeah.
You're listening to World of the Unexplained. This is Jay Scott.
This is Trent Lackey. You like how I said that? Wow, we're here. It's like all of a sudden I thought I was in some other dimensional space, and all of a sudden I find myself here at WOTU. Like I don't know where I was like 10 minutes ago, but now
Now you do.
here.
Now you're home.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, we're peaking pretty bad, man.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
We'll let D take care of that as we continue on through the night.
Scott, did you see the 100 Guinness Book of World Records or something on Sunday? Did you see that?
No.
It's ridiculous, really. I'm used to like the records of world's tallest man, world's shortest man. You know what I'm saying?
They're doing all kinds of stupid stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was one, no kidding, there was one, how many clothespins you could put on your face.
That's cool. Who won?
Some guy, he put like 1,000 clothespins on his face.
1,000 clothespins on his face. That's wonderful.
And, there was another one where like, you could, how many bubbles can you blow while having a live tarantula in your mouth? I'm not kidding. How many bubbles can you blow with a live tarantula in your mouth?
How about none for me?
Yeah. No, there was another guy. I mean, no kidding. There was another guy that basically, the largest scorpion you could put in your mouth. And it was some kind of African king scorpion with the stinger attached. And he said, like, yeah, these pincers are strong enough to cut your tongue off. And it's like, why
are you putting it in your mouth?
Why are you putting it in your mouth?
Gosh.
Exactly. It's just, I just felt like a lot of these world records, quote unquote, are just a bunch of bull. It's people wanting to do idiotic things to get their 15 minutes of fame.
That's right.
I mean, really. You can't help it that you're the world's tallest man. If you're that, what can you do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ironically,
you can cut your feet off. No,
I guess so. No, seriously, but it is kind of weird because the world's tallest man and the world's shortest man are both in the same country. That itself should be a record.
They should walk together like Frankenstein and Igor.
No, they do. I mean, actually, I know I bring this up, and that's weird that I would bring up another Mongolia reference, but both the guys are. I'm serious. Both the guys are Mongolian. The world's tallest.
How tall is the world's tallest?
I don't know.
Man?
He's pushing 9 feet.
How short is the world's shortest man?
He's like 2 foot or less.
Can you imagine seeing that coming down the road?
And you know what the thing is? They do kind of hang out together because it's so ridiculous. And the thing is, they live in the same country, and Mongolia, there's not a whole lot of...
There's not a lot to do.
Yeah, you got the steppes, and one time Genghis Khan lived there. But that was hundreds of years ago. But now, it's like, wrestling. They're really big into wrestling. Not WWF wrestling, but like real...
It's WWE wrestling.
No, it's WWM.
No, it's WWE.
World Wrestling Mongolia. No, I'm just kidding. But wrestling is a big sport over there. But it's weird. I mean, that should be a record in and of itself.
It should.
I mean, the fact that the world's tallest man and shortest man are both natives. Ethnic Mongols. That's basically what they are. They're both of the same genetic stock. Now, I mean, what are the odds of that happening?
I don't know, man.
Living in the same country. I'm just going on about it. But yeah,
speaking of genetics, that's a good segue.
It is?
Yeah, to tonight's guest.
Oh, right. Nephilim
Imperatives.
Yeah.
Terry James, because he talks about the whole, the whole Nephilim coming down, intermixing with the
regular stock.
Yeah, the angels, the fallen angels coming down and mating with the humans. Yeah. Creating this hybrid genetic type of thing, maybe. Yeah, so that was a very good segue. Didn't even plan it.
I know. I mean, sometimes I'm such a professional that I just inadvertently
just flies out. Man.
It's like, wow, but that worked out so brilliantly.
It did,
and I didn't even know it was going to work out brilliantly. Like a lot of our plans, like WOTU. I think that was another one, Scott. Just a brilliant plan that just totally was seat of your pants.
It was.
And
you told me it was a pipe dream. Remember?
You have a lot of pipe dreams.
I do. Yeah,
you remember that time you wanted to build a canoe like Tor Heyerdahl and sail.
I still want to do that.
Sail the Pacific.
One day, my friend.
You and me, we're gonna sail the Pacific Ocean, and
we would die within a week.
We would die horribly. A giant squid would eat us.
Yeah, I don't think it's probably a good idea for us to build a raft and sail in the ocean.
No, I mean maybe
it sounded like a great idea at the time.
I guess so, because Tor Heyerdahl, all those dudes, they're Norwegian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they should.
It's like a genetic heritage, and once again, a genetic heritage to be master boat builders and sailors. You know, they can't help it; it's in their blood. We'd sink.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, just enough goofing off.
Okay,
Terry James is on tonight. Sorry,
we've got Terry James on tonight. He is the author of the new book, Nephilim Imperatives. Many of you will remember us having Mr. James on with us when he came out with his first book. And he's coming back on the show tonight. You can check out a website that he's affiliated with at www.raptureready.com. This is Mr. Terry James. How you doing tonight, Terry?
Fine, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to have to make a confession to you, Terry. I've only read about the first 50 pages of the new book. I've been so busy.
Well, that's understandable.
But I'm going to have you back on when I do finish reading it again. If that's okay with you.
That'd be fine, yeah.
But I do love the way that the new book has come out, as far as what I've got into so far, because it brought back it's like a modern, whereas the old book, it was taking you back to the 60s in that era, and then the new book brings you up more to the present day, or closer to the present day from where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I tried to make, I think, 9/11 sort of a watershed event, and the way things have progressed, and excuse me, and the way things have progressed as far as what I consider to be the return of the Nephilim.
Uh-huh. Now, you're with Anomalous now? Is that Tom Horn's new outfit?
Yeah, that's Tom Horn's publishing company.
Awesome. He doesn't pick a lot of people to publish.
I'm sorry?
He doesn't pick a lot of people to publish. He's very selective about who he prints.
Oh, is that right? Well, I didn't know. Tom and I are good friends, and of course, I know that he requires a certain degree of, as any publisher would that wants to be successful, a certain degree of, I guess you could say, of expertise or whatever.
Oh yeah. Now, how's the site Rapture Ready coming right now?
Well, most prophecy things right now are kind of running kind of slow because things are kind of cooking along in the Middle East at a smooth pace and not too much ups and downs. And when that happens, well, we usually have let me get this phone off before we have problems there. And it's going along rather smoothly. And when that happens, we have a drop in visitors. But our website, we are still going up every month. Todd Strandberg, my partner, and I are very pleased with that, and so despite the fact that it seems to be somewhat of a lull in things that might pique people's ears to prophecy, ours keeps going. So I'm very pleased.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, you were writing this book, Nephilim Imperatives, when we were talking about your first one, correct?
Yes, that's right. I was. It took me about 8 months, I guess, and I think it was probably right in the middle of the time you and I talked on an occasion or two, and so I think we got finished that sometimes about October, I guess it was, and it was published and released finally in January.
Now, I noticed the new book's a lot bigger than the first book.
Well, it's not really. It's I think the first one was about 380 something pages. This is 399, I think.
Well, it seemed a lot bigger when I got it, but I was like, wow, this thing's huge.
Well, novels usually run pretty long these days.
Oh yeah. So, how many books are you planning on making in this series?
Well, Jay, I don't know really. I think one more maybe. Make it kind of a trilogy. I'm thinking about calling the next one the E.T. Protocols. And,
okay.
So that's what's in my mind right now. Right now I'm working on a nonfiction book for Harvest House, and so it's due in April. So April 1st, as a matter of fact, or April Fool's Day, as a matter of fact. So my writing schedule is pretty hectic right now. I just got contracted on it, so I don't have much time, do I?
I understand totally. Now, for those of you that don't know, Terry is actually blind, and he writes these books on a program called Jaws. Can you tell some of our listeners that don't know you about some of the stuff that this program allow you to do?
Yeah, JAWS is the acronym for Jobs Accessible Word System, and it's synthesized voice in a computer program, as you were saying. And every keystroke I put in, whether it's just a letter or a word, or a sentence, or a paragraph, entire documents, it will put it in and it'll read back, and it'll also read back any document that's in Word text. In other words, if it's text, not PDF, it won't read a graphic, of course, but it reads anything that's in text. So it's been very, very helpful. What I used to do when I lost my eyesight totally in 1993, and so when I began writing books on a regular basis, my little secretarial associate and I, editorial associate, I should say, and I would I would dictate these things on standard cassette and give them to her. She'd transcribe them, and we'd get on the phone, and we would edit as we went. And when I learned the JAWS program, this word system program, well, it increased our productivity by about, I'd say, 1,500%. So
wow!
Since I did that, we've had I've got 18 books already. I'm working on my 18th book. Since 1993, I'd say, well, she wasn't on the first one, but the last 17 books since 1993. So we've moved quite quickly.
Now, Terry, what do you think about this newest flap of UFO activity that we've been seeing in Texas?
Well, it is a strange mixture, because you had all of these people who, very credible witnesses apparently, in Kingsville, Texas, not Kingsville, Texas, what's it called, Stevensville, Texas, saw the object, said it was over a mile long, it looked like. Very credible witnesses, a pilot and some townspeople, and it was apparently seen by a lot of other people outsiders, not just those people in that town. But and the Air Force at the time said that, and they said they also saw two, I think it was, fighter jets chasing this thing at one point. And the Air Force said they didn't have any record of any fighters being out. I think it was a reserve unit or something. Said they had no record of any fighters being out. They had no record of any such object on their radar. But strangely, they come up about a week or two later and say, well, yeah, we had, I think, 10 or 12 jet fighters out that night. And I don't know, they still said that there was no object, and that some people suggested, I don't know if it was the Air Force that suggested, but some of the pundits I heard suggested that it was perhaps just some of the town's, shall we say, the town fathers trying to stir up some business to get people to come down and kind of make it a Roswell of Texas or something. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's I think it's a real sighting. I think we're destined to see more of these sightings as the age goes on, because I think that this is one of the key prophecies you and I have talked about before. Jesus made in Luke 17, and referring back to Genesis chapter 6. And so I think we're destined to see more and more of these things, because we see all the other prophetic signals on the horizon, the geopolitical, the.
What do you think? What do you think about the election as it's going right now?
Well, of course, I have my preferences. I have to be honest with you, I haven't found a candidate I can settle on yet.
What about Mike Huckabee?
Mike Huckabee, he's quite disappointing in the area of taxes and that sort of thing, because I live here in Arkansas, and of course
there we go.
he spent our money pretty liberally here.
Okay.
That always gets to you when you get into your wallet. But anyway, as far as being a Christian man, I met Mike once. He spoke at our church. He was a Baptist minister, of course. And my pastor called me over there after the sermon standing out front. Had been greeting people. He called me there and wanted me to meet Mike Huckabee, and said that he was thinking about running for lieutenant governor of Arkansas at the time. So I met him way back then. He's a nice man, and he has a quick wit. And I don't think, you say, well, is he qualified for the presidency? I don't think anybody who goes in there are very qualified. They learn quickly in that job. But Huckabee right now is the only person I could see that I would vote for personally. But
no, I'm pretty much there with you on that. Mm-hmm. No, I do know I have met John Edwards. It's been probably 2 years ago, maybe. And I do, after speaking with him and meeting him, he is a really nice guy. He's just too much of a liberal populist for me. Mm-hmm. But I do sincerely believe, that he's a good Christian man. Just from being with him, speaking to him, that kind of thing.
Good. I don't know much about Mr. Edwards except what I just watched on occasion on television and so forth.
Yeah. But, as far as, I was just really surprised because we're here in North Carolina, so the South Carolina primary is big for us because it's just down the road. And, I was really surprised to see, to see things work out the way they did and for him not to get, any votes in his home state.
That's kind of strange, yeah. I mean, but these are strange times. Politics is a rough game, and I'm sure that he's made his share of enemies, and unless you have the power established behind you in the Democratic Party in particular, where you're in trouble. And I don't think he's got that base sewn up like both Obama and Hillary had.
And that's kind of, I guess, the reason I'm kind of bringing the politics into it is because I'm wondering what your views are as far as this next presidential election, as far as end times type prophecy working their way in. Do you think, where do you think we're going to be 5 years, 4 years, 3 years down the road even? I think we're getting closer, but, how close is close?
Well, Jay, I do notice one thing, and that is I know that this world, according to Bible prophecy, is headed in the direction of one world economy, one world government, one world religion.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. That's what it teaches. The Antichrist is going to eventually bring all of these things together into amalgamation, but that's not yet. We have so much sovereignty, so many sovereignty issues, particularly in the United States. Now, Europe is just about giving up on their sovereignty issues, as has the rest of the world, really, because of dictatorships and so forth. But what I see is happening in the next election here is everybody I see, I don't see anybody with any real strong views on American sovereignty.
Yeah.
They're all basically one world order type people. In other words, they are all for this international trade. Most of them are anyway. All of them that I'm aware of are the international trade. Now, there's nothing wrong with international trade, but in the sense that they want to actually become economic trading blocs in the sense of the European Union with the NAFTA and the American Trade Organization, whatever they call that. I can't remember the acronym for it.
I know what you're saying.
But I see all candidates basically, and Thompson wasn't, but of course he dropped out.
Yeah. So
that they're all going in, and that includes Huckabee, is an internationalist. Let's take down the trade barriers type guy, and so I think that's where we're headed. I mean, everything rushing in one direction.
Well, you hear these conspiracy theories, and I don't know how much of them is actual conspiracy. I know Jerome Corsi wrote a book on it, and a lot of other people have as well. And there's even a website for it where they talk about this whole North American Union, eradicating the borders between Canada and the United States and between Mexico and the United States, and coming up with some kind of uniform rule of government. And that's kind of a scary thought. Some people have even commented saying that George W. Bush is behind trying to get the dollar down so much to where it's it's a feasible alternative. And I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of conspiratorial in nature, but definitely when you see things kind of going the way they're going, it's something to make you think.
Well, it's kind of like Dizzy Dean. Somebody said he was bragging about his pitching, and he said, "Well, it ain't bragging if you could do it." And same way with looking at this in kind of the same way. It's not just sleight of hand if you actually see them doing it. The president is acquiescing to a lot of things going on in the way of one world trade and so forth. And what this means is, in my way of looking at it anyway, as a observer of. Watcher of the times and a watchman on the wall, I guess you say, as Bible term would put it, is that the United States is headed toward the time when Jesus talked about in Luke in Revelation chapter 17 talked about, and that about the 10 kings and 10 nations that will arise. And these seem to indicate they're 10 kings, and they seem to indicate all based upon economy, because that whole scripture there in Revelation 17 verses 12 and 13 talk about the 10 kings give their power and authority to the beast, and those of us who look at these things now see these world power bases developing. These, like you're talking about, the North American Union, the European Union, all of the others, and I think they will eventuate in 10 of these. And just wondering if that's not the equivalent of the 10 toes of the giant metallic man that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed about back in Daniel chapter 2, and the prophet Daniel talked about it, and that the final form of this, indicated by this vision that Nebuchadnezzar had, would be the 10 toes. That'll be the final government that Jesus will return to destroy. A rock strikes the feet, and the whole thing crumbles, and it blows away into dust. And so we're wondering if these 10, if this won't eventuate in the 10 trading blocks. It's interesting to watch, something to watch.
Is the Antichrist going to come from Rome?
Can I get you to turn up your volume?
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to speak loud. Is the Antichrist going to come from Rome?
You know, I don't think necessarily he will come from Rome itself. He will come from the people that destroyed the city and the sanctuary in 70 A.D., the scriptures tell us. And he will be out of the old Roman Empire, I think the geographical area that was encompassed by the power base of. And of course, Rome is at the center of that, but all of what we now call Europe was in that general area. Now, he's also called the Assyrian in the scriptures. My own personal take is that he will have been born and raised in the area encompassed by the old Roman Empire, but he might be of Mideastern extraction from the area of Syria and in that general area. That's my.
Great, another terrorist. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. I've heard a lot of people speculate that he would come from Syria, and that's why I'd ask. And I've heard other people speculate that it's the Holy Roman Empire, and the Catholic the Catholic Pope himself. I've heard people speculate about not this current one, but soon to come. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Hal Lindsey's take is that the last pope will be the Antichrist. That was even some of the Pope's assessment, that it seemed to be to them that the very last pope of the Roman Catholicism would be the false prophet. And I really don't think I don't see anywhere that he would show that he was a strictly come out of religious offices, because I think one comes up out of the sea, which is the beast that comes up out of the sea, seems to indicate the sea of peoples of the world. That would mean a geopolitical type thing, whereas the false prophet, the second beast, comes up out of the land always meaning the land of the Holy Land, the land of Israel, and all of that. God gave the land. So some people think that he will have to be from that general region, the beast, that is the false prophet. Now, that's all speculation, because none of us know really. The only people who know will be the generation alive at that time. They'll know the number of the beast, I believe, even in Revelation 13, verse 16 and 18.
Now, do you think that the RFID chips, are you familiar with those?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you familiar with the RFID chips?
Yes, I am, basically.
Do you think that that's going to be used perhaps in a kind of a mark system?
I don't think the RFID itself is. I think the technology that's sponsored from that is certainly going to be used as a method of instituting the economic system of enslavement indicated in chapter 13 of the book of Revelation. Now, it's interesting that there's developed now ink. The whole world is mad about tattoos right now, especially America.
Oh, yeah.
Tattoos are everywhere. Well, they develop ink that has this RFID quality about it, and they can actually be imprinted in the skin in ink.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's true, and so I can see people taking that and being very proud to be use that as an allegiance to to their political preference or whatever. And so that's something to keep an eye on.
Well, did you see the guy? This happened, oh gosh, it's probably been 6-7 months ago, maybe longer than that. There's a guy that called himself Jesus. He was in, where was he, Trent?
Oh, he was from Latin America, I want to say.
And he had people like tattooing
666 on there.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a totally...
It was on the national news.
Completely flawed view of theology, you know.
And he claimed that he was Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, of course, that's what Jesus' very first thing he warned us about. In the Olivet Discourse was false Christ, false prophets will arise, coming in there saying, I am Christ. So that doesn't surprise us in the day that everything else has seemed to be happening prophetically as far as setting the stage, that somebody like that would come on, and we're going to see probably more of them like that.
All right, well, Terry, we're going to have to take our first break of the night. If you'll hang out with us, you're listening to Terry James. We're going to give the call-in numbers when we come back, and we're going to talk some more about his book, actually, and kind of get on topic, I guess. But we have such a pleasure every time we have Terry on. If you'll stay with us, we'll be back in just a second after this.
We are World of the Unexplained. Tonight we have Terry James, his new book, The Nephilim Imperatives. Call us. The 1-877-722-7382 or locally 336-996-1596. And we're going to just jump right into this book here, Terry. Just tell us a little, however you want to do it, the basic plot of the story and maybe how you came up with it.
Well, the first book, The Rapture Dialogues, it begins with the finding of the Dead Sea Scrolls. My whole premise is that I think that there's something seems to have happened in around mid-century, 20th century, that really moved things forward on God's prophetic time clock. Now, of course, nothing takes God by surprise, but I think this is the way it was intended to be, perhaps. But I base this upon Daniel chapter 12, where it says that, he told Daniel to shut up the book and seal it to the time of the end. Time of the end, that all these things would happen, knowledge would increase, men would run to and fro, and so forth. Things would take a quantum leap forward in technology and everything else, which is exactly what happened. And it said at that time the book would be open, and it involved, of course, the prophecy involved Daniel's people, who of course, was Israel. And, of course, Israel was born in 1948. So I tried to build this based upon kind of my view of prophecy, that something profound did happen in the mid 20th century, that is, and with the founding of the Dead Sea Scrolls, more or less validating God's Word, particularly the Old Testament, and even parts of the New Testament, validating for the most part that what was written there was written in ancient times and not made up in modern times, and other things that would validate God's Word as being true. So that was a key element. And then I come forward from there to 1947, the Roswell incident. Something definitely happened there that was really phenomenal, despite the fact that the government has spent all this time covering it up. And I don't like to sound conspiratorial, but when there's so many obvious things that have been done to cover up what some credible people have said happened, you wonder, is there, the proverbial fire where there is a proverbial smoke? So that's the premise of the book, and I started that in the first one, the Rapture Dialogues. And from that, I go to 1948, the founding of Israel. The main character fights in that war for America on behalf of Israel, and he is sort of becomes the center of the whole novel for a while, as he becomes a training pilot, a trainer pilot for T-38s in Randolph Air Force Base, and some of the kids that will fight in Vietnam, and he did some battle in Vietnam and other places. So I come forward from there, and still using all of these elements that I believe are wrapped up in Jesus' prophecy in Luke 17, and again in Genesis 6 about the sons of God seeing the daughters of men, that they were fair, and took them wives, every one that they chose. In other words, they have sexual relations with human women, and from these unions were developed the giants of old, the Nephilim. And so I base the whole thing on this. This pilot sees some of these flying discs and has some experience in his nightmares and so forth, having some kind of visitation by these creatures. And so that's throughout the book. Another main character, a younger man, who comes to later. He and this colonel, lieutenant colonel's daughter, become close, and we'll carry on in the next novel to the Nephilim Imperatives, which is the second novel. But throughout the first novel, I just build on all of these things that I believe are wrapped up in the Nephilim, or the Nephilim being returning again, as Jesus said that this would be happening again. The things that were happening in the antediluvian times before the flood would happen again. Well, that whole generation, that whole world really became so contaminated, and I believe a large part of it was genetic contamination, that God said He repented Him, that He made the people and so forth. So He was going to destroy the whole earth, which He did, except for Noah. And
can I stop you there for a second, Terry?
Huh?
Now, I think it was either you or Tom, and I think it might have been Tom Horn when I was talking to him about a year ago. We had talked about he believed that possibly one of the reasons for Noah's family being saved and them being the only one saved is because everyone else was, had this genetic mutation in their I guess in their blood, in their genes, and that was part of the devil's idea to corrupt. So if he corrupted all the humans, then Christ would have to have been born through that same genetically imperfect bloodline. But since Noah's family hadn't had that impurity, they went on to basically reproduce the earth.
I think that is, I think that's a part of it. I have no doubt about it. That is probably Satan's whole premise on doing that. That refers back to, of course, Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, where it said that there would come one who would bruise the head of, would crush the head of the serpent. A Redeemer would come, a Messiah to the Jewish race, of course, later. And so, anyway, I deal with that throughout the novel, and this very subject you're talking about, genetics, transgenetics, all of these things. And it comes to the point that the whole cast of characters really is in an underground. They go through an underground laboratory in the New Mexico area. Some of them do anyway.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get away from these beings, these creatures, these interdimensionals rather than extraterrestrials. Of course, they're demons based upon, I think, the spiritual warfare in Ephesians 6:12. And basically, it proceeds like that, with these things never being able to quite overtake them, and them never quite being able to get away. And so it ends in kind of a special way with the daughter. By now, we go from probably the era of 1967 suddenly to the era of 2001 with Mark, the main character, who was a young man back in the 1967.
Now he's an old man.
Now he's an old fellow like me, and about my age, a little older, maybe like a year or two older.
Well, that's what's so funny, Terry. I'm reading the book, and I'm trying to remember back, because it had been so long since I read the first one, and for a minute I was confusing the journalist with Mark, because it had been so long since I'd read it. And you see so many similarities between father and,
Yeah. Well, Mark is the father of Clark. Clark Lansing, remember, was, if you remember the first novel, he was mysteriously taken out of that small airplane in 1947. Yeah. Well, the grandson, Clark, again named Clark Lansing, has the same name. He is a journalist now, and this one is a young man.
Yeah.
And he's and in the second book, and I start the second book. I leave the first one off with Mark and Lori, as now having come from 1967 to 2001 or so, and they're seeing their young daughter off. She's in her very early 20s, and she's going to a job in New York, and they're at LAX seeing her off, and that's kind of where I leave it, with kind of a climax type thing. And
no. What happened with the? I'm trying to remember. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read the first book. But what happened with the preacher and his wife that we see?
They are in. I don't know if you recall now, but they're in Boston's Logan Airport.
That's right.
At the moment.
That's right. Yeah, at the moment that the terrorists are. Yeah.
And
okay.
He has a flashback of what happened back in the
'60s that he saw
in 1967 when he saw an image in the very same restroom. Of course, the restroom is now all modernized and everything. He saw in the image the mirror an image of a beastly type thing looking, staring at him. He wondered what all that was about, but he figured he was getting sick or something at the time. Well, he has kind of a revisitation of that. At the time that this girl, Lori, is headed, toward to New York from California, Mark and Lori's daughter, the young Marine pilot who married the girl that we're talking about, the daughter of the first character that was a fighter pilot back in helping Israel way back then in '48. So I begin the second novel, The Nephilim Imperatives, Dark Sentences is the subtitle, with, actually it's in the caves of Afghanistan where I started. And this group, and I base that on a historical fact, at least a recorded fact, that they, the 19 Saudis and Saudis and a few others who plotted 9/11 met in this cave in Afghanistan with, they said, Bin Laden was also there. And they filmed their pledge and read their pledges to Allah to wage war on the American and Israeli devils. And that was actually on videotape. So I went back to 2001, January of 2001, and I sort of began it there. Well, I had a scene before that in the prologue, but that's basically where I began it. And then we fast forward to September the 11th, 2001. And of course, we know what happened there.
Oh, yeah.
And from that, the main characters, who are the children mainly of the ones in the previous novel, carry on with this battle against the I believe the interdimensional visitors, which is a revisitation of, just like Jesus said it would be in his Luke 17 account. He said it would be like it was the days of Noah, with the same genetic type engineering, with the same genetic type tampering. Now, I think Satan is not omniscient. He doesn't know everything from end to beginning. But he does learn. He's a very quick learner, of course. Probably the most brilliant creature that's ever lived, that God ever made. And he's a quick learner still. And even though I think he's totally demented now, and he's upside down in his thinking because of that's where sin leads. But the devil, Satan, Lucifer, I think that he's learned from in the old days. They literally came down to the daughters of men and procreated with them. I think now Satan has learned that he's going to try a different tact, and that is to again contaminate the genetics of mankind through laboratory work in the modern era. And it's the same thing. It's a revisitation of the demonic activity, changing the genetics of man. I think even cloning and some of these other things can be brought into this equation. Now, you say, well, why would Satan do that this time, when before he was trying to prevent the birth of the Messiah through the human line? But I think a case could be made that now Satan simply wants to take as many people to hell as he can with him, or at least he wants to develop his own army of followers, and by creating people, creating beings, part human, part demonic, part fallen angel, creating that hybrid, I think these people would be without souls, therefore would be unredeemable.
Yeah.
And so he would have him an allegiance following. And I think that this, at least in my fictional account, that's my thinking as I proceed with the novel. And I won't go any further than that, but that's basically what it's about. And I think there's a lot of exciting scenes. People seem to be pretty pleased with the book. So.
Well, I love the writing, and you can always tell. I've said this once before, so I'll get caught one day. But you can always tell when I like the writer of a book. I'll talk about how great the writing was. If we've got a guy on that I really don't like, I just won't say anything about it. But being
start talking then.
Yeah, but being an come on now, and being an English major, and having my English degree, it was something that I really learned to write and learned the art of writing in college. And you can tell good writers from bad. Your bad writers never read, for one thing. But and you find a lot of the it's gotten a lot better, but a lot of the Christian fiction has a lot to be said for it. I mean, it's just not, a lot of it's just not really well written. But I will say that both your writing as well as the stuff that I've read from Tom is just dramatically done. It's done well.
Well, thank you. And I honestly, I would not want to release anything that I didn't feel was worthy of having the reader read. In other words, I wouldn't want to insult them with that, and so I'm very careful. I want to make sure my writing is done properly in every sense, and that it does present an exciting, as far as fiction is concerned, either way, but in fiction in particular, an exciting story as well as trying to make a point. But the point always of all of everything I do, and no matter what area it is, I want it to be to lift Jesus up. That's my whole thing, that the Holy Spirit can draw people to Him for salvation. And so God's been very good to me and given me some good opportunities to present some work that way.
How do the people at your church feel about your Nephilim idea or your Nephilim theory?
Just like I go to a small Baptist church actually here in my hometown.
I mean, do they put you over in the corner and say, "Yeah, he's a really nice guy. He's a really nice Christian man, but he's got these really wacko beliefs"?
I not a whole lot of. I have a few people in there who have read the books, my novels, and people who have read them really, really like them. But most people, even in my church, don't know much about prophecy. And this sort of thing, much less, the Genesis account is not taught very much. Our pastor is a very good guy, and he preaches on the prophetic word once in a while. He doesn't get in depth with it like I would like, but then he has, he has to break the whole word to the whole congregation. Oh, yeah. And I have taught a prophecy class in church on Sunday evenings, I did for quite a while until my writing schedule got too hectic, and I had a big class, and so they were getting educated. That was at the pastor's request. So he has a heart for it. He just going in so many different directions that he can't concentrate on prophecy, nor should he. I don't think that it should be the primary focus. But the problem is with churches today, they simply they ignore it. They won't. The pastors won't even touch it because they're afraid they're going to offend somebody, or they just don't want to put the work in to study about it, and that's somewhat troubling.
Well, I know I was on the Alan Handelman show. I have to keep bringing this up. But he basically, I had laid that idea out on the line. And, I told him that at the time, which was true, it was one of those things. I said, well, the jury's still out on what I believe concerning, this idea. I said, but I think it's definitely a good idea, and it's one that should be, looked into more, researched more. And that was basically where I was going with it. Well, he basically labels me as a complete loon, tells everybody on the stage, keeps getting my name wrong for one thing. Trent, you heard it.
Yeah, I called him
Jay Clark. Yeah, and then not on top of that, he's one of these liberals that's just really condescending. Every idea is great. We're open to every expression except yours. If it doesn't agree with my liberal agenda, that's him.
And who is it?
His name's Alan Handelman. Yeah. He's on a 100,000-watt talker out of Burlington, North Carolina.
Well, you and I have been on together with some of these guys that don't exactly agree with.
Yeah. Verado.
Oh, wow. That
was a fun night.
That was a fist fight in a Texas bar room, wasn't it?
Verado's a great guy. He's just a little misled. That's all. But we're coming up at the top of the hour again. Terry, I'm going to let you take a break, and we're going to take a break, and all of our listeners can take a break. We're going to be back in 5. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. We'll be back with Terry James after this. And we're back. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Tonight our guest is Terry James, the author of over 18 books, if I believe if memory serves. His newest book is called The Nephilim Imperatives, and I don't remember, what's the tagline on the subtitle there?
Dark Sentences.
Dark Sentences.
On Antichrist, Dark Sentences in Daniel 8:25.
Oh, cool. All right.
Understanding Dark Sentences.
All right. Well, Terry is available for your phone calls, any prophecy questions or anything like that. Feel free to give us a call here, 877-722-7382. That's 877-SCARE-YOU-TOO, because some of this stuff is scary, especially if you're not a believer. It can be really scary stuff. And, you know, Terry's done a lot of prophecy work. Do you have any of those clips, Terry, on your of your TV appearances? Are they on the Rapture Ready website? Or?
Well, they were some up there. I don't know if Todd still has them up there or not. I think he does have a video of myself and some other people that we videoed down at Dallas during the pre-trib thing, Tim LaHaye's pre-trib prophecy conference. So they could go and find that, I'm sure, on there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's definitely something maybe you should, they could Google and find. I've got, some of that on CD, thanks to your publicist.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff, though, really good stuff.
It's out there. I don't know exactly where to find it.
Well, I did find some of it on the internet before, but that's been a while back, and I don't know if that's still available on the site. But, so, Terry, what do you, as you see the escalation in the Middle East, that just, how does that make you feel?
When I see the escalation?
Yes.
Well, the thing I look at when I see that is it's just exactly where we must stand on God's prophetic timeline. And mainly, the two key things I believe of all, setting up all prophecy, are right there, set up and ready to set the stage for everything to come. And that is, number one, Israel being back in the land as a nation. Well, actually, three things. Israel being back in the land as a nation again, with its own language, Hebrew again, after being scattered to the whole world, following the 135 A.D. scattering by Emperor Hadrian, Roman Emperor Hadrian, and they completely put down an insurrection and scattered them to the whole world. And we know about all the persecutions that have happened throughout history, culminating, I believe, in the Holocaust of Hitler's time. And so Israel being back in the land again after all of that dispersion and then persecution, and they're back in the land with their own language again, the Hebrew, and that's never happened to any other nation in history. Well, God prophesied it would happen. He said that they would be a nation forever in His eyes. He would bring them back to the land, He says in Amos. He did that. So that's the number one signal, that Israel back in the land. But not only that, but Israel at the very heart of this whole Mid-Eastern thing you're talking about, the things going on over there. No matter which way the cameras or microphones turn, they always focus right back there on Israel, what's happening between Israel and the Palestinians, all of the terrorist organizations, the Islamics who want to destroy them throughout all of the surrounding area. So Israel back in the land with total attention of the world on it, becoming, as Zechariah said in chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, the Old Testament prophet said that Israel and Jerusalem would become a burdensome stone and a cup of trembling to the whole world. And anyone who burdened themselves with Israel, the other nations, would be cut to pieces. That's what's going to happen. It's going to called Armageddon. God's going to bring them into the valley of Jehoshaphat to answer for their treatment of Israel and for their rebellion against Him. That will happen at the end of the tribulation era. But so Israel back in the land, they are the center of controversy. They are becoming a burdensome stone to the whole nation, to the whole world of nations, just like God said they would. And then you have another fantastic piece of the puzzle, and that is a peace process that's going on that we've been hearing about just lately with President Bush over there talking up peace. He even made the statement that he would have a peace covenant between Israel and the Palestinians and the Arab neighbors before he left office. Well, I think that's pie in the sky. I don't think it's going to happen. But if he's the one that puts it together, then he's the Antichrist, because if he confirms a covenant like that, a peace treaty with all those people over there and Israel at the center of it, that's what Antichrist is going to do.
So I was right. So, George W. Bush is the Antichrist. No,
a lot of people believe he is, but no, he doesn't fit that mold at all. Not in the slightest, in my view. But then there may be some interim peace accords assigned, kind of like when Menachem Begin got together with Anwar Sadat. When was it? 1979, wasn't it? Something like that. And but there's not going to be the major peace that will destroy many. It says in Daniel chapter 8, and also in Isaiah chapter 28. Says that there will be a peace that will destroy many. That's when Antichrist will make based upon Daniel 9, chapter 9, verses 26, 27. Peace, the prince that shall come. So those are exciting things that show me where we are in God's prophetic timeline. That's why it's so important to watch the Middle East, Israel, Jerusalem, and the peace process as we move into this year coming.
Well, what do you say to people that say, we shouldn't be there at all? We need to mind our own business and stay out of Israel and not be their friend.
Well, I say this, that is true. America has been as far as human influence is concerned, has been a very good friend to Israel. We saw them we midwifed them in birth in 1948. God has used this nation in that way. And so we are still standing by them for the time being. We've protected them all this time with the nuclear umbrella and with our forces, and even though they've got their own very powerful force now, including nuclear weapons.
And probably the greatest air force probably in the world.
Yeah, because as far as it may be a lot smaller than some, but it is certainly technologically and
the pilots are just
trained. It must be tremendous.
Yeah,
and so. Yes, we are back there. We're there, and people who say we shouldn't be there, they base that upon we shouldn't be there just looking out for Israel's interests. We shouldn't be meddling in other people's affairs, and that may be right as far as meddling in other people's affairs, because those people over there haven't changed in 3,000 plus years, and I don't see they're going to change any because there's a satanic rage against Israel. But the fact is that the big thing there, Jay, as you and I know, is called OIL. That's why we're there.
Yeah, I know.
And that's exactly why we're there.
And the prices of the pump just keep going up. I'm like, light them up, George. Come on. Give me some cheap gasoline here.
That's right. And, and the liberals over here, they do not want to allow any drilling, become anywhere near independent as far as oil or that kind of thing. They won't really allow for a lot of producing of they're talking hybrid and all this, but for the production of really economical alternate fuel sources, they just won't hear of anything nuclear, and so they've hamstrung us so far as they've got us over there with their attitude. So that's the way I kind of view it.
I think Chuck has a question for you, Jerry.
I was just wondering if you thought or if you had any feelings on the possibility of the U.S. letting Israel use Iraqi airspace to bomb Iran.
Well, that's an interesting concept. That's, of course we hear that the Bush administration say that they don't want Israel bombing Iran. And but come a point when Israel's going to do what they have to do to protect themselves, and whether or not the United States would stand by and say use this airspace, I just don't know. I'm not privileged to those high councils, but I do think that would certainly be a most direct route, wouldn't it?
Well, it certainly would be. I was just wondering if you had any feelings on if it would be a legitimate use of American power.
A legitimate use of American
power.
To
allow another foreign entity in the area access to airspace of an occupied country to bomb another.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. Well, I just don't know. I think Bush probably would if it came down to the absolute.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
For example, if it was, if they knew for a fact that they had to get rid of a nuclear site that was about to produce a bomb or two or whatever, I think that in that case, the American forces would look the other way.
But will the American people believe anything that the Bush administration tells them now about weapons in other countries.
Well, I don't know. Of course, the media have and the Democrats are walking in lockstep, and always have on these things. So, who do you believe? I know we get lied to from all sides.
We mainly get lied to by the liberals, though. We all know that. So that's nothing. That's honestly, there's nothing. They're godless. They're godless. They support gay rights. They want to give free stuff to everybody. With our tax dollars.
They want to create a voter base by we the taxpayer paying for it.
Yeah, but they don't understand. They don't seem to understand that you can't do that. So
that's right. And it's a human government. Human government is on the side of Satan and his minions, no matter which ones they are. They're not on God's side because they keep God out of the equation. Now there may be lesser of the evils, but nonetheless, there are two forces in conflict in this world. One is God's forces. One is satanic forces. Satanic forces are going to lose, and I want to be on God's side, as I know you do. And
oh yeah.
And so our job is to I think as citizens to try to come down on the side of people who promote morality in this nation as best they can. And
the Republicans aren't doing a great job of it, but they're doing a better job than the Democrats seem to want to.
Yeah, neither are very pleasing to me, but I have to say that we still have a choice, and I come down on the sides of Republicans, at this point.
But you told me earlier you weren't happy with any of the candidates out there right now. And I don't think anybody is on either side.
It's going to be a very interesting election. I really don't think the majority of Americans want Hillary Clinton in there. That's my view.
Well, I mean, I've said this on the other show before, and I'll say it again on this one. I just don't believe America. I don't believe that. I think the Democrats have shot themselves in the foot. They think they can put anybody up there and they'll get elected. And I think that when the curtain is closed behind these people, they're not going to vote for a woman, no matter how much they say they would, and they're not going to vote for a black man. I think
the country is certainly not ready for a woman or a black teenager to be running the country.
What was that T-shirt we saw the other day?
Barack Obama.
Yeah, half honky, all donkey. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And and the very fact of his, and this may not be fair to him, but the ties to the Middle East and to...
He was a Muslim for one time.
Yeah, to Islam in his very name, Hussein.
Who wants to vote for a guy like that after 9/11? Come on.
Apparently more than half of South
Carolina. Yeah, apparently more than half. God.
I think he's a bright guy. I don't have anything.
Oh yeah, he graduated. He graduated from.
He's intelligent.
He's charismatic, and
he graduated from Harvard Law School first in his class.
Yeah, great man.
And that takes a lot. Trust me.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and he would probably, if he was a Republican, he'd make a good president.
He seems to love Ronald Reagan a lot.
Oh yeah,
just that thing.
Hillary likes to keep bringing that up.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just in conflict.
Democrats mad now, I know, but...
Well, either way you come down on either side. I mean, I know there's some really good Christian people that are Democrats. I don't know why, but they are. And it does happen. But going back to just the whole idea of, the end times prophecy and things like that, if I had asked you 10 years ago if you thought you would live to see the rapture within your lifetime, what would you have told me?
I would have told you yes.
If I ask you that same question today, do you find it?
Remember what was happening?
Yeah.
We just come out of this thing over in the Middle East. It was just a tremendous war, and so forth. What was your question?
I was saying, if I ask you that question today, do you feel it's even shorter time?
Absolutely, because as I just explained a while ago, I mean, we're right there bumping up against the end of the age. I have no doubt about that.
I think that it's really, I guess, probably within the last, to me anyway, and I don't study it as much as you do, but it just seems to me as in these last probably 3 to 4 years, things have really, really heated up significantly.
Well, all the elements are in place, and again, I want to say that I want to predict here. I'm not a prophet, but as a prediction and it's a speculation. But I really believe we're going to see more of these these sightings and so forth, these UFOs and things. I think that's a big part of Satan's plan to
seduce the
set up a delusion.
Yeah.
I believe for the tribulation era.
Now, what do you think?
Second Thessalonians.
What do you think about? There's a lot of talk now about the Mayan calendar in 2012. Do you think there's going to be some kind of big-time delusion that takes place then? What is it, December, was it 26th, 24th? What is it, guys?
I think it's
26,
whatever.
I think.
2012. What do you think, or do you think nothing's going to happen?
Well,
I know this is just speculation.
I don't know. I'm certainly not looking for the rapture in 2012 because I'm looking forward to any moment. That's what we're supposed to do. It's an any moment event. It's an imminent event. But there's so much interest generated in that particular date that it, maybe God wants people's minds turned to it. Of course, I don't believe anything that the Mayans have predicted is going to come true.
Yeah.
But certainly, all the prophetic elements are in place, and I would like to use it to our advantage so far as we who teach and preach Bible prophecy from a pre-trib view, and that use it to our advantage because the whole world, the media is going to be more and more focused on this the closer we get to that 2012 date. So I think let's use it for all we can to really put out what God's Word really says about this and about Jesus Christ and Him being the only way to salvation.
I mean, there's a possibility also that even if nothing is going to happen in 2012, there might be certain agents or forces out there who are going to try to make something happen.
Oh, I'm sure that's probably going to happen.
Because of the whole
all the nutballs
right,
and whack jobs out
building it up. And it's like, well, we're going to make it happen anyway. Just sort of an engineered apocalypse.
Kind of what Ahmadinejad is doing over there. I mean, I don't know how badly he wants Armageddon to get here, being in power and everything, but certainly he's ginning up as much vitriol for advocating war against Israel in the West as he can. So,
according to him, the Holocaust never happened.
He's doing a pretty good job making everybody mad at him.
Yeah.
He really has.
And we should have arrested him when he came over here. I cannot believe that an American university would let that man get up and speak. Of course, it's going to be a liberal university like Columbia.
Well, I mean, free speech, Scott, even speech that you don't want.
Yeah, well, here's.
I mean, I don't agree with it.
They wouldn't. What was it,
all.
Chuck? We were talking about like they wouldn't let. They didn't have an ROTC program because of the ROTC's views on or the military's views on homosexuals.
Well, I guess.
But here's a guy
that's a program active on a college campus. It's different to allow one-time speaking event
that kills them. I mean, it's like
I do actually think that it was a potential security risk to allow him in the United States and his attaché and all that.
You think?
Oh yeah,
he was a terrorist. He was part of the hostage taking. In 79.
He was, wasn't he? He was one of those bearded guys.
And so why didn't we just
got pictures of him? Yeah,
there was a lot of bearded guys.
We should have just picked him up there at the airport and take him off to Gitmo too.
Yeah, he denies being a part of that, but clearly the people who were there and hostage said that he was one of them.
Oh, of course he was.
Yeah,
but he's a dangerous man.
But you do see these things, and it is it is crazy. It makes you wonder when that first nuclear weapon is gonna be used. It's kind of got down to the line on that. It was a fear that as a child growing up in the 80s that we had. As children against Russia, I'm talking about my generation, with movies like The Day After and the Soviets. Yeah,
it's not Russia. It's the Soviets.
Anyway,
big difference.
But I know it's a big difference. The Soviet Union. You see them marching on TV though, and
they really are. But
they are back basically. The new Tsar Putin. But you see that, and there was that fear of nuclear war, and then for that to go away, and now there's another fear. And it's on the horizon of. Terrorist activity of, possible dirty bombs, other suitcase nukes.
This brings us back to another prophecy that's on the books that Jesus talked about in that same Luke 17, 26, 27 verse. He said, as it was in the days of Noah, and then look back to Genesis 6, and we see, what was it? It was of course, we talked about the sons of God coming to the daughters of men and having offspring, Nephilim and all that, but what is it else is tied up in that? Violence filled the whole world. Well, what is terror and the fear of it except violence? It's violence on a worldwide basis. What we call it, we're going to say, war on terror.
Yeah.
And it's been declared to be a world war. So So violence that you're talking about here.
Well, I was speaking to a police officer the other day. I have frequent dealings with him because I do represent the wrongfully accused. All my clients are not guilty, Terry.
No, they're not.
But no, so and I'm fairly good friends with the local police department because I see them all the time, and they're good guys. And I was talking to one the other day, and I said, we're in court, and I said, it just seems like these kids are getting worse and worse. And he said, yeah. He said, you get robbed today by a 30-year-old. He said he's going to take your stuff and he's going to run. He said a 16-year-old does it, he's going to shoot you, take your stuff and run. And that's kind of where these kids and these crimes are getting more violent, and you're seeing a younger age of kids, and they're more violent today than they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah, and they've been inculcated with violence.
Oh yeah,
television, and movies and
video games, the whole thing.
Video games, it's like it doesn't really happen. People get up from that and they can do the same. See the same characters they've shot before, get up and get shot again. So no big deal.
Also, because you're you're constantly being surrounded by something that I can't say the word.
Desensitized.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And also there's not the lack of some kind of strong foundation background saying explaining to them that
there's
there's
no moral leadership, and there's no
somebody to guide them and tell them, even if they play these games, that there's
no self-responsibility.
Right. Personal accountability is gone.
There is a rating system, however.
So much of America now, the kids of America now are unchurched. They don't get Sunday school training. They don't get and certainly the parents are so busy or else doing their own thing, they don't get training at home. So where are they going to learn stuff? They're going to learn it on television.
Yeah.
And of course, this has always been the mantra, even in my day. Don't let your kids watch TV. but it's really true with these video games. I mean, they're inculcated daily with this stuff.
Well, Terry, we're going to have to take our last break if you'll hang tight with us for 5 more minutes.
Okay.
All right. Guys, if you're out there, I know you are, give us a call. Speak with Terry James, 877. I'm sorry?
I'd like to hear from a Democrat or two.
There we go. We'll even talk to you guys. 877-722-7382. That's 877-SCARE-YOU2. It's toll free in the United States and Canada, or 336-996-1596 locally. We'll be right back after this.
Third Rail, a politically abrasive new media radio show where we talk about all the important issues you care about, all the stuff the old media won't touch, with a 10-foot pole from out in left field to just right of Attila the Hun. We will cover all the bases. Third Rail, brought to you by your hosts Jay Scott and Chuck Browner, airs live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday night. Check out our website at thirdраilradio.com. Careful, touch it and you might get shocked.
We're closing shop here at WOTU. Come on, give us a call, 1-877-722-7382, 1-877-SCARE-YOU2, or locally 336-996-1596. And as we were asking, so someone has called. We have Ron Paul Hunter on the line. Hey, Ron,
how you doing?
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good. How are things in Raleigh?
Kind of chill, man. It was kind of a lazy day for me. I was trying to get some stuff done and had a day off.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, do you have any questions for Terry?
I'm just following along with the end times conversation, I guess. Take a break to watch the President's State of the Union address for a little bit. So I've got some notes on that. If you guys wanted to hear something about that, I could tell you, paraphrase some of it. But where were we? I didn't actually catch the exact last part of the conversation. Could you kind of go over it again?
I'm trying to think where we left off, actually.
We were
talking about violence in video games.
Yeah,
we're talking
violence
about
perpetuated.
I did bring up the possibility of the U.S. letting Iraq use their airspace to bomb Iran.
Yeah.
Ahmadinejad, people, stuff like that.
Iran.
Yeah, just how the turbulence of the world right now has become worse and worse, basically.
Right. I'm not sure how far the global warming part of the discussion got.
Oh, we didn't talk about that.
Actually, we didn't talk about it at all.
Really?
Because it doesn't exist, Ron.
Man, I do go over this end time stuff myself, and most of my analysis, and I've had a few, what I call religious visions, basically, of the future. It looked to be more of a thing that it was more of a fight for survival than it was to have to worry about somebody swooping down out of space and grabbing your chick,
No, Terry, are you still with us?
Yes.
Now, Ron is actually, we've spoken with Ron many times. Ron has actually put together his little civil defense package that he talks about in promoting different things. But Ron has had visions, he claims, of basically end times type of phenomenon going on. And I know that Ron is... tell him a little bit about some of your visions, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, I had some visions, just kind of out of the blue type things that were like big, vivid movies. One was of a tidal wave. I had one very vivid vision of, and the thing that really spooked me about the thing was I had a vision of like a big meteor inside of a large debris cloud in space, just coming through the atmosphere and plowing over the horizon. And it was, I thought it was in North Carolina. So I put this stuff up on the internet, and a bunch of people posted a lot of visions that they had. They're very stark dreams that woke people up in the middle of the night. And what it ended up being, the most important part about it was the location. It all ended up being in the Gulf of Alaska, like looking like it was just off the West Coast. It was at least 5 or 6, and maybe more people that had all these dreams. And if you put them together, it was sort of like an integrated scenario, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We talked about this before, where they had the sculptor and the painter and everything. People saw different parts of what could possibly be the same event.
Well, what I find so interesting about you, Ron, is the fact that you're a Methodist, right?
Right, exactly.
And you're also a very, very strong supporter of the Democratic Party. I find that interesting.
Well, that's just recently, man. I'm a strong supporter of Barack Obama. Let me put it to you this way. The Democratic machine itself, I'm opposed to. And watching the president's speech tonight, the one thing that I noticed about him that I immediately disagree with is he seemed to think the pivotal thing that will get us through this whole global warming phase was to rely on charity to repair disaster and to have like some kind of technological breakthrough to give us better energy technology. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's the case. As you might know, I advocate citizen civil defense, like assembly in the county of residence, where people get together.
Well, where I was going actually, Ron, is
right.
You believe that...
Not my show, sorry.
No, it's all right. Now Terry is, under of the belief that, the rapture is going to come, and we as believers are not going to be left here to suffer through the tribulation. Now, and I believe that same way. Now, I believe that you and I had conversations before, and you're more of a post-millennialist, thinking that if you are a Christian and you're left here, that you will be suffering through that stuff.
Well, you can't say that, but I mean, to be brutally honest and to logically break down all the terminology and how we deal with this end-time scenario, the Nephilim that were giants, right? You can think about it in terms of a dire famine-type human event, too, in which children that would be born would be very small and would need smaller amounts of food. So if you really had a caring Christian population, it would collapse in upon itself during an end times event, trying to keep its children alive. You like we talked about, it would end up maybe with something like the Middle Ages, where everybody's average height was like 5'8", instead of it being 6'4". We get a lot of steroids in our food. We get a lot of food, period. We have a great system for distributing food. Remember, we had Ray Buchanan on there, and he talked about food and famine.
Ray does a great job. Right? Ray does a great thing with StopHungerNow.org. He does a great
Absolutely,
great thing.
Man. He's still helping people to this day, and I'm trying to get something set up in a school system here in Wake County, which is a huge school system, as it turns out, to get them to do some of the Stop Hunger Now type meal programs, because it's a hands-on type of civil defense that would. It's one of those things that would remove fear. It's very therapeutic. The students could take home some of the meals, and would be a famine relief program for people that are in education. So that, say, if you have a single family home, you could take home these simple-to-prepare meals type things. This is what I'm working on, latest project,
Well,
but I'm very
awesome.
much supporting Barack Obama. I thought he destroyed Hillary and Edwards in the last... well, he did actually in the primary, but in the debate too. So
I think you're smoking something. But
I'm trying to love everybody. You know how it is down in the trenches, dude. When you want to see change and you fight really hard to make something happen with the government.
That's just a catchphrase, right? Do you have any questions for Terry?
The only observation I was going to say is the connection I was thinking between the Nephilim and the giants and the small people, and fearing the giants would be like if you were a young child, you would fear an adult coming and taking all your food away, especially if it was a critical survival bottleneck where just a few more years of time would be enough for the climate to repair itself and you would be able to go back to agriculture and try to recover some of your technology. Those are the dire things, the bottlenecks I see as being something. And I really like, though, Terry, how you, because I did listen earlier, how you went over and paraphrased some of your plot lines for parents, because I think it's really important for parents to understand what their children are reading, and to understand that a lot of things, like in literature, as Jay would know, is that they're allegorical. Like, you sometimes have to use symbols and imagery to jump from one side of the metaphorical fence to another, to literally be able to go into the fantasy world and tell a story that is very accurate, but still won't be clear and discernible. But you can, if you jump back over on the other side of the fence, you can point to A, B, C, and D and pull out your engineering text and say, hey, we need to get some work done, you know? That's like the difference between talking to children and talking to adults. And you never know who you're broadcasting to. So God bless everyone, and God bless you guys for having me on.
Well, God bless you too, Ron. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
I think it's great, Terry. Great stuff, man.
All right. And number is 877-722-7382. We're about out of time, guys. If you want to call in, do it now. I don't really know where to go at this point. I got wrapped around in that conversation there, and I'm trying to.
Well, I would just say that I would have asked him, what is his worldview? Does he believe the Bible literally, or does he take it symbolically? Most of those of the mindset, I admire him greatly for wanting to feed the hungry, and the way that I believe his heart is genuine in that.
Yeah.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But looking at it from a worldview, I don't see the giants being, just because they look to be giants from the little child's perspective. I guess that's what he was saying. I don't, I believe that I come from, like you, I come from a biblical worldview, that I take everything the Bible says literally, unless it indicates that it's not literal.
Yeah.
I think that tribulation era will be a time of great trouble, and as many as 3/4 of the world's population could die at that time. I mean, it's going to be a tremendous number. And so I think things like civil defense planning is going to be just a moot point.
Well, there you go.
That's true. Yeah.
What do you think about? What do you think as far as what is your? I'm not trying to peg you down on anything, Terry, because I know no one can claim to know the time or the hour.
I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, I'm sorry. As I'm not trying to peg you down, Terry, but I know no one can name the time or the hour, but do you think this is something that the rapture would come in the next 20 years?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's imminent. Basically everything is in place. I see nothing there's nothing there that needs to be put in place. It's not in place for the rapture to occur. I've never seen such a prophetic setup as a stage setting thing. And I just can't. I've never seen a more orchestrated situation to be exactly the way the Bible predicts. And so I would say very near. Yeah.
All right. Well, Terry, we appreciate you coming on the show tonight and being our guest, and I'd like to get you back on again sometime.
Anytime. Well, I've always loved being on with you, Jay, and I appreciate all you're doing there.
Well, hang tight with us just a moment, Terry. I think we might have another caller.
Okay, I'm having trouble with my phone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I put it on loud, but it's kind of now you're squawking in my ear, and but I'll listen. Go ahead.
Okay. It's Ron again, I think.
Okay.
Go ahead and bring him in. Ron, are you with us? Ron?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Ron, are you there?
Yeah, man.
Did you have a question?
I don't know, man. I mean, he was saying we don't need to do civil defense at all. I totally disagree. I guess maybe it's not my place to say, but he shouldn't have agreed with him unless you really do. Do you really believe that?
I believe that I'm not going to be here after the rapture comes, Ron. I don't think I have to.
You've been so good that you're going to be ascended.
I didn't.
Holy cow!
Okay, you don't want Jay Scott to break out the guns here, boys.
Third rail. They're going into something
anyway.
Cold, aren't they, man?
All right, you're out of here, Ron. Ron's off.
Okay.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
All right, I ain't taking that crap. This is my
I wanted
show.
to ask him how he squares with hating the Democratic machine and liking Obama, even though Kennedy and Kerry and all of them have come out and endorsed Obama.
Oh my gosh! We'll save that for Wednesday night. Call back then, Ron. We'll talk it out Wednesday.
Aliens and demonic entities in the end of the world.
Or
or maybe it does have a lot.
You have to appreciate listeners that continue to listen, and we'll let you hang up on them and then still call you back. He knows it's nothing personal. But Terry, thanks so much for being on the show tonight. We appreciate it.
Much.
The website is raptureready.com. Thank you so much, Terry. You have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. I love the way you answered the phone. Yes. And there was just silence. Yeah, that was great. Good stuff, Ron. We appreciate it.
Oh, man.
We appreciate you, brother. We really do.
So you really think you're not gonna be there in the rapture? How? I'm sorry, man.
No. What I'm saying is, I believe in the rapture.
Pretty sanctimonious, don't you think?
What? No. I'm saying I'm not going to go through the tribulation. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you were going to be one of the people gone in the rapture. I'm not saying maybe you are.
No,
maybe Chuck is.
Do what now? I'm confused now.
I'm just kidding, man.
I'm a little confused at the question.
Anyway.
No, what I'm saying is when the rapture comes, all of God's chosen will be taken. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. You're not saying that you're going to be one of them taken.
One of them taken?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying you're not going to be the one of the people going in the rapture. Is that what you're saying?
I believe that all Christians will be going in the rapture. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I guess Chuck, you're going to be hanging out here.
Chuck, you're stuck, brother.
Running 1-2 by yourself.
With you guys?
I'm sorry.
Will Ted Haggard be going with you guys?
Ted Haggard?
Yeah, the huge, evangelical megachurch.
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know his heart, brother.
Prostitutes and methamphetamines.
I do not know his heart.
Oh.
He'll be there with you, man.
Only God
You can be
knows
worried
his
about
heart.
homosexuality in the afterlife too.
Well, I hope if I do stick around, I'm gonna,
Oh, Chuck, you're so enlightened. You're just so enlightened.
If I should happen,
your prowess is so much higher than mine.
Scott, if I do happen not to make it, I hope I'll have a really, really bad muscle car, and wear a leather suit and fight a guy called Humongous. You know what I'm saying?
I just think that,
maybe go to the Thunderdome.
I think that the mockery here at some level is just. I'm
just saying, have you been so virtuous that you really think you're going to ascend? Have all Christians been so virtuous that all Christians will be ascending?
I'm telling you what my interpretation of the Bible is. It doesn't matter if you've been virtuous.
You said here that all Christians will be ascending, didn't you?
That's what I'm saying. When the rapture
all the
returns,
ones that have molested little children, all of them. That
when those may or may not be real Christians, Chuck.
Right. I think that's what Scott's getting.
What I'm saying is when the rapture returns, if you read that interpretation that way, and some people don't. Some people interpret it as to be, everybody's going to go through the tribulation in the end. I mean, people read it different ways, but the way that I read it, and the way the most fundamentalists read it, is that Christ will return. He will pick up his followers, the church. And then the tribulation begins.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying.
And I guess if you happen not to be one of those people, well, then for some reason or another, even though you thought you were doing the right thing, maybe you weren't. You know? And in the end, you really don't know. I think that's...
No, you're right. No one's going to know until it happens, but those are my beliefs, and I'm sticking to them. Okay. And,
That's cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring a Mad Max reference in. Basically because I like the films and End of the World.
No, you just want to jump on the bandwagon and laugh with Chuck. Go ahead, be honest, it's fine.
No, I just really like Mad Max.
We were tag teaming, man.
Yeah, y'all were, man. I had to break out the big J on there, man.
We were double
J
teaming,
Scott
man.
coming at you.
I had him in the power slam.
He thought he had me in the power slam.
The third turnbuckle.
And I had to turn that into a pile driver.
Handle, man.
And then maybe I was using the Mongolian chop.
Oh my gosh!
There's that
line it up, man. I can drop the elbow on him.
All right, guys, check it out. Check it out, guys.
We're really getting off.
There's one thing I do want to talk about, and that is the Day of the Pods.
Day of the Pods.
It is coming.
We need some music for that, Chuck.
Yeah, we do, Chuck. You need to make some music.
Some weird. And we'll just think about
not music that you hum, Chuck.
No, some 50s. We're talking like 50s sci-fi music, because Day of the Pods. I mean, right,
spooky stuff.
Right.
Maybe Jacob's Ladder going in the background.
You need a theremin, if you could find one.
Zero.
Anyway, Day of the Pods, Scott, talk about it.
Day of the Pods. It's going to happen here on World of the Unexplained, March the 10th, 2008. From 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Giving stuff away.
We want everybody here that can be here to listen live. I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're in KWSS in Arizona. If you're in Scottsdale area, turn your dial to 106.7 FM.
You're in Perth, Australia.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care where you're at, but listen in. Our time zone, 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday night, March the 10th, 2008. We're going to be giving lots of stuff away, but only if you call in. And so we want to bring that base that listens to us, that doesn't have a station they can listen to us on, that listens to a lot of our podcasts. We want to bring that podcast base in, listen to us online. And I want to tell you guys that do download that we do now have a new what's it called? Check server.
A dial-up?
Dial-up server, I guess. Low band.
Low band.
For dial-up, people with dial-up that have to download that can't listen live.
Right, because
you're going to be able to do that now because we have one expressly set up there for dial-up.
Yeah, we don't want to leave you guys out. Certainly don't.
So no matter what, you don't have an excuse. You can listen live because you can listen on the internet, even if you don't have a station in your hometown that picks us up.
Yep. Day of the Pods. Check it.
Day of the Pods, March 10th, 2008, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So.
Well, that about does it for tonight's show.
I think that does. Maybe.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Where's the music?
I don't know. Oh, well.
It's usually there. Where's the music? Oh, no, not again.
We're getting down on that.
Okay. Anyway, Chuck, we want some Day of the Pod music. It can just be a loop,
work on
a loop of like 50.
Zero.
Definitely, theremins would be
That's
awesome.
my impression of it so far.
Yeah.
I've got an idea of what I
Okay,
can
all right,
get
yeah,
for you
definitely.
guys.
Need to work on that. Day of the Pods, check it. Terry James, excellent guest as always.
RaptureReady.com.
RaptureReady.com, his new book, Nephilim Imperatives. It's very entertaining and informative, and probably just a little bit scary, however you want to look at it. Maybe all three of them, Good show. I'll try not to talk about Mongolia next week.
No Mongolia next week. You're on a Mongolian.
I am on a
boycott.
Mongolian.
We're cutting you off, man. No more Mongolia for you.
I've been reading the book about Genghis Khan. Maybe that has something to do with it.
That probably does.
Mongolians, yeah.
Oh man.
Whatever.
All right, tune in next week, Monday night, 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time.
Oh my gosh, the lights went out.
Oh, yep, they did. But yeah, and also check out Third Rail Radio, thirdrailradio.com. This Wednesday night, 8 to 10 Eastern. Notice we're always 8 to 10 guys here.
Yeah.
So, check it. I'm Jay Scott. You're only JD DJ on the Omni Sound Radio, One Network.
And this is Trent Lackey. We're coming to you from Kernersville, North Carolina, a small town where we talk always about very big things. Chuck.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.